Hello, good morning. Welcome to Discover Tai Chi and our live stream. I'm Phil.
Hi, good morning, folks. I'm Helen. We do Discover Tai Chi, which is evidence-based Tai Chi. So to anyone who's not joined us before, hello and welcome. We've got some regulars through the door, so should we say good morning to our folks who've already arrived?
Yeah, we've already got Chris. Hi, Chris. And we've got Maggie. Good morning. And who else we got?
And Jill's already arrived, so good morning all. We hope you've got a cuppa in hand. So if you haven't got a drink, do grab a drink, because we've got some fab guests with us this morning, haven't we?
We have Jeff and Jamie of Yoga for AS waiting in the green room. We've been giving them a little bit of an advertisement in our newsletter and Facebook posts. So hopefully you're going to be interested in our little chat with them, but we'll get started in a few minutes. And then they're going to do a little bit of a takeover and show some of their kind of modified and adapted yoga for AS. And we're going to let them tell you what AS is and why they're keen to kind of promote their yoga as well. So hang on in there. And if you have any questions or comments for Jeff and Jamie, don't forget to put them in there. Helen's going to be monitoring the chat once we bring Jeff and Jamie in. So that we can fire lots of questions to them. Who else has come in?
So good morning to Pat. Pat's just arrived. We know there's a few of you who watch but can't comment. So hello to you out there as well. And also to the folks that watch later. So it's nice of you to join us and join in the session. You can always email us later if you've got questions. You can always drop us comments. We will try and catch them. And obviously you'll be able to ask Jamie and Jeff questions too. So yeah.
Right. So for those people who are watching later, and again, we had some comments on Facebook that people were really interested in Jamie and Jeff. So again, for you guys, don't forget, head over to the YouTube channel and watch this session again. And we'll be sharing this link to the YouTube today with Jamie and Jeff so that they can use it as well. So basically, we're sharing the love. Shall we bring Jamie and Jeff in? And don't forget, guys, I'm now acting as producer, so I'm now honing my producer skills, which means that if I do things slightly awry, just bear with me. It's okay.
It's multitasking.
I'm multitasking. So here we go. We'll bring in Jeff and we'll bring in Jamie.
Morning, everybody.
Morning, everyone.
Hi, good to have you with us. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Yeah, great to have you with us, guys. So first of all, maybe could you just introduce yourselves? Maybe Jeff, do you want to start off and how you've got into Yoga for AS?
Morning, everybody. Yep, I'm Jeff, and I'm 71 now, incredibly. And my symptoms for AS started when I was 24. I started practicing yoga when I was about 40, but I didn't get diagnosed with AS, a form of inflammatory arthritis, until I was about 60. So for the last 10 years, we've been modifying yoga for AS because the treatments for AS are medication and looking after yourself. And one of the best ways of doing that is to relieve the pain and the fatigue with yoga. Modified. And that's where Jamie comes in.
Yeah, so thanks for that, Jeff. My name's Jamie, and I was diagnosed with AS when I was 18, but had symptoms probably from the age of, when I actually look back, from the age of about 12, 13. And shortly after diagnosis, I went to like a support group for this condition, and that's where I met Jeff. He looked really healthy. He had amazing range of motion. And I was like, what are you doing different from everyone else? And he explained to me he had a really consistent and modified yoga practice for AS. And I straight away started practicing quite diligently. And then we came together years later to, use what we've learned to hopefully help to empower others with the same condition.
Brilliant. Would you be able to tell us a bit more about the condition?
Yeah, AS is a form of inflammatory arthritis. Mostly it gives you back pain. And most people think of back pain as sort of mechanical, but this comes from inflammation. And AS stands for axial spondyloarthritis, which is a real mouthful. So we just say AS for short. So it's painful. You've got it for life once you've got it. It's an autoimmune disease. It's progressive. It can get worse. It's systemic. It can affect any part of the body, and it's pretty much invisible. But we say, on the positive side, you can recover a better quality of life. You can relieve the pain. And if you practice regular, safe yoga, you can slow down the progression. I'm 71 and I lead an active life. And if you start with this kind of stretching, relaxation, younger, then you stand a very good chance of your AS not beating you.
Fantastic. Jamie, would you like to say a little bit more about what that was like to be diagnosed with a long-term condition and then finding something like yoga for and being able to engage in an activity like yoga?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the initial diagnosis at first was a relief because I was like, okay, I know what this is now. But as soon as I started to do more research and look at sort of especially the online presence and discussions around this condition, fear set in. It was a very fearful experience, and there's a lot of fear. And actually, people with AS tend to have poorer mental health statistically. So it's disempowering. You're feeling out of control. You feel you don't have control over your situation and your future situation. So when I came across yoga, I found instant relief. But what's more is it started to change the trajectory of how I viewed the condition. Because with yoga, because it's also working on acceptance, it's working on discovering more about how your body moves, discovering more about your stress levels. It's incorporating not just physicality of movement, but it's working on physiology, your mental health. It's improving lots of things, and you can look at the research on yoga and mental health. So it became a lot more empowering. And the way I started to look at it is, yes, this is a progressive disease, but can you progress what you're doing with your life in a positive way? So can you progress your yoga practice? Can you get better and better at your yoga? Can you improve your range of motion? Can you improve your ability to not get stressed in situations? That is progression. And then you've got this weighing scale where you've got this, you could say, heavy progression or negative progression and positive progression, and it just balances out. At least that's how I like to look at it.
Fantastic. That's amazing. Yeah, I think often when we think about what medicine can offer, medicine, obviously we've got amazing drugs that can tackle and help with these conditions, but we don't always think of the whole person in terms of, the impact on mental health to have been diagnosed with a long-term condition, and what then can people do. And it sounds like it was a real sense to have a sense of agency and control over what was happening that makes the difference. So did you notice your stress levels change just from that happening? And how does stress and inflammation, what are the connections between those two? Could you say a bit about maybe stress, managing to control your stress levels, and any connection with your inflammation in the condition?
If I could, there's an explanation. If you have a lot of pain from inflammation, you get fatigue. If you get fatigue, you're not sleeping properly, you're in pain during the days, you get grumpy, you get down. So if you can relieve that pain, either just with yoga or with a combination of medication and yoga, the medication helps the yoga and the yoga helps the medication. So that way, Tai Chi is, I think, the same. It's not just a physical thing, is it? Your mind, your body, your spirit, your emotions, they're all engaged. It's not just physical jerks. So if it helps, if the stretching is what breaks up the inflammation, that's the key fact to take away. So if it does that, and you do that gently and safely and regularly, then you're going to relieve the pain and the fatigue, and your stress levels are going to come down.
And in addition to that, in terms of your stress levels at physiological level, what yoga targets specifically is bringing you more into the restful state of you've got the sympathetic nervous system, this fight and flight response, and this rest and digest. So what yoga targets is bringing you out of the stress response, the fight and flight, which if you're feeling tense, if you've got stiffness, if you've got pain, you go into this response. It might be a low level of sympathetic response, but even such, it's causing stress. So yoga targets to bring you more into the parasympathetic through breathing exercises, things like pranayama, which is just translates to breathing exercises, but also throughout the practice, you're consciously breathing and slowing your breathing down alongside opening up the body, expanding the body, and elongating. So it also affects your physiology. So a yoga practice is literally making you less stressed.
Fantastic. So it sounds like you start to become from maybe a negative or vicious cycle of stress and more pain, less sleep, less able to recover. You kind of swap that into a more positive cycle of, yes, feeling a bit more in control. Maybe that starts to reduce the pain a bit. You're going to get more rest. You've got feelings of something that you can do to help manage the pain. Does that sound about right? So you're managing to kind of flip those cycles around from a vicious cycle to a positive cycle.
It's about recovery. Recovery is recovering a better quality of life. There's no cure for this, but you can, live a really good life. So, but you have to help yourself. Don't sit back and just take the medication that's given to you. Get on with it. If you take some control by practicing Tai Chi or practicing yoga regularly, you may, for example, the typical posture that people with AS slump into is called the question mark pose, where we slump down like this. And what we're trying to do in yoga is to say, open up. And that way you'll keep your posture for longer.
Fantastic. So, we know very much that from some of the research around embodied cognition is that our posture really does have an impact on how we feel. So if we can't straighten up, we know we're going to feel more depressed. So almost, and when we are depressed, we've got a tendency to look down and to get into that kind of more protective posture. So like, again, it breaks that maybe negative feedback loop, and it kind of gets you more to change that and to kind of take control over it. Maybe it sounds a bit more. So I think it sounds like there's lots of commonalities with all these long-term conditions around, yes, we're going to need to take some medication, but yes, it's about us being maybe positive, which sounds a bit cheesy, but there's a way of engaging with it.
I kind of feel of it it's around self-efficacy, and we're finding maybe modes of self-efficacy, be it yoga, be it Tai Chi, be it running, whatever it is. And we often say, if you don't like Tai Chi, find some other activity that you enjoy. There's part of this is about doing something that you enjoy as well, isn't there?
Absolutely, absolutely. It must be done, and it must be fun. If it ain't fun, people aren't going to do it. It's like diets, isn't it? Everybody says, yeah, I'll do it. They don't. 6 months later, most people have dropped out. So if it's fun and you're doing it with people and you're meeting people, albeit online in a class, that's what you're going to stick at. And it's the evidence is that yoga for AS is safe. You'll stick at it, and there are benefits. So there's those three things. Jamie,
have you had any interest from healthcare professionals, or have you sought out kind of healthcare expertise in these areas of AS?
Oh, absolutely. If I could answer that. My inspiration came from the staff at the Royal National Hospital for Rheumatic Diseases in Bath, England. And they run a 2 weeks long AS rehab course. And it was there that I first got told, look, you can't just take the medication, you've got to move. Motion is the lotion. Move it or fuse it. And so we have their support. We have the support from the consultants and the AS specialist physios at that hospital from an organisation of physiotherapists called A-Stretch, from the National Axial Spondyloarthritis Society. We've already done one Facebook Live for them, which went out to, I think, 200 people. We're doing another one in March. So it's not just the organisations. We started our Facebook group in May last year. Now, today, we've got 1,497 members across the world. So when you have that support from the health and social care professionals and hundreds of other people with AS across the world, we're doing something right.
That's lovely.
Fantastic. That sounds amazing. Yeah, it just goes to show the need for it, and that you're obviously doing it in just the right way that people can appreciate. If they're getting something from it, they can feel the benefits. Do you think it makes a real difference when somebody with a condition is the teacher?
I think so. Main reason being, you can learn things theoretically for forever, and there are some incredible yoga teachers out there with lots and lots of very specific experience with working with people with an array of conditions, yoga therapists and such. But I think there's something to be said for expertise by experience, because it provides an insight which is incomparable to any other. So when we're teaching a specific sequence or a specific pose for an area of the body, this is stuff that we've tried, and we know it works on ourselves, and we know it's worked on people that we've also taught. So it's not theoretically, this will help, let's do this. It's saying this has helped, let's do this. It's instead of this will, it goes from will to has. So if it has helped, then we will help others with doing such.
Fantastic. So you're actually a living role model to show this works. And like you say, your first impression of Jeff was like, he's a healthy man who's like, yeah, aging normally. I wouldn't spot him in the street as somebody having a long-term condition. So yeah, so the proof is in the pudding, isn't it? As they say, if you don't mind me calling you a pudding.
The proof is in the pudding. Absolutely, Helen.
It is.
That's fantastic. So in a minute, we're going to hand over to you and kind of hand over the reins of the show, because you're going to demonstrate some of these movements that can be done seated and standing that are suitable for people with a range of long-term conditions. Well, anyone that wants to try out an adapted yoga.
Yeah, so speaking to our audience, both now and later, here's your opportunity to begin to get yourself ready. Don't forget, if you have any comments or questions, do post them in the chat. Helen's going to be managing that. I'm going to be basically highlighting either Jamie or Jeff as they tag team this session. We'll aim to kind of maybe do around half an hour or so, I think, and then we'll come back. We'll answer any more questions and comments, and we'll wrap things up. So if there's any other sort of things that you want to say, Jeff or Jamie, to us before we get started, anything along those lines?
Just to say, have a small cushion and a light chair to hand.
Okay.
Fabulous.
Thank you, Jeff.
And Jamie,
and to give I was just going to say, I was going to introduce the session and really emphasize that what we're doing today, yes, it's a similar sequence to what we would do for people with AS, but this is something that's safe and applicable for, for anyone. And it's showing that if we Google yoga, we go onto Google Images and we type in yoga, we'll be like, oh, okay, this doesn't look like something for me. Maybe this thing seems a little bit too, this requires an extreme and usually an above average range of motion. What we're showing you is everyone can do yoga, and there's always ways to adapt and modify. So what we're showing you today is really adaptive yoga.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that introduction.
Okay, Jamie. So is Jeff going to get us started first?
So I'm going to start. I'm going to get everyone started with a breathing exercise, and just a very simple introduction to it. As I mentioned earlier, the Sanskrit name is pranayama, but it really translates to breathing exercises. And in a yoga class, we always start with this because, as mentioned earlier, it's helping to get us into a calmer state, which means we get more out of the practice. And it's something you can also do in isolation. So it's a tool that you can take away and use in your daily life. So if you feel stressed and you have an anxious response to something, you can go, hey, I learned some breathing exercises. I'm going to go and try this out now. So that's what we're going to do. And today I'm going to teach something called box breathing, which is actually a very simple breathing exercise. If you imagine a box, it's got 4 sides, or a square has 4 sides and each side is equal. So this is going to be the framework we go off for this exercise. So we inhale for 4, we hold the breath for 4, we exhale for 4, and we hold the breath for 4. And we repeat this continually: in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. So what I'll do is I'll count a few with you, and then eventually you'll get into a rhythm of doing it in your own time. All of this being said, if 4 feels too much, you can always take it down to 3 or even 2. But the most important thing is you've got these equal sides. So what we'll do now is we'll do a large exhalation, so emptying the air out of your lungs. And now we'll inhale for 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 2, 3, 4. Exhale now. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale now. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Inhale. Hold it. Exhale. Hold. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Inhale. Continue in your own time now. And if you can, make sure you're inhaling through the nose. You can exhale through the mouth or exhale through the nose, but try and inhale through the nose. This just helps to support that parasympathetic response that we mentioned earlier. Another aspect to this is having attention on the breath. So if we have come to this with quite a busy mind today, the monkey mind is talking, count the breath and focus on it. And when your mind drifts and wanders, come back to that and begin again. What this is doing is harmonizing our autonomic nervous system. So keep on breathing in this way, and it will affect how you feel in a positive way. We'll do a few more rounds. Can you make these the longest and deepest? You may want to even explore extending it. So instead of holding for 4 or inhaling for 4, you can inhale for 5, hold for 5, exhale for 5, hold for 5. There's no limit to how much you do, but just making sure each side is equal. So do one more now in your own time. And once you've gone through the final round, just allow your breath to come back to its natural rhythm and feel how you're feeling. Just taking a moment to see if there's been a bit of a shift in how you feel, maybe a bit more calm, a bit more steady and grounded. We always do this at the beginning of a yoga class to set the tone, give us a foundation, so we're coming in at states where we can really get as much benefits out of the practice as possible. So that's just an introduction. There's thousands of different breathing exercises, but that's a simple one. And it's used across the board. It's also used they use it in the Navy SEALs to calm people down who are in very stressful conditions. So it's also used to train firefighters. And, this has taken these ancient wisdom or really just controlling breath control and using it to help us in life. So that's a little bit of breathing exercises, which we'll now pass over to Jeff, who's going to start teaching us some physical poses, or in yoga we call it asana.
Hello.
Oh.
Now we're going to do a standing pose. So if you come to standing, I'll face onto you so that our feet are pointing straight forward, about hip width apart. This is called the mountain pose. Now what typically happens in AS is we slump into this question mark pose and everything gets shortened. And over time, all that soft tissue hardens, so you can't get out of it. So it's something that you have to practice regularly. So what we're doing in Tadasana is we're lifting out of this pose. The chest comes to the chin drops a little, the crown of the head rises, the pubic bone here lifts to the chin, and we turn the palms to face forwards with the arms out to the side. So there we are. Come to standing, feet hip width apart, pointing straight forward, lift the thighs, drop the tailbone down, lift the pubic bone, lift the chest, let the top of the head rise to the ceiling, particularly let the shoulder blades fall away down the back, turn the palms facing forward and the hands out from the body, and breathe. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Do this 3 to 5 times. So there we are. I'll hand back to Jamie now. And Jamie's going to do standing tabletop.
Alrighty, so the next pose we're going to do is with the use of a chair. So we want to have a backrest of the chair facing us. And this pose is a really good one to do actually in between bouts of sitting. And it commonly, actually in yoga, we hear a pose, maybe you may have heard of it, called downward facing dog. Now, the pose we're going to do now gives exactly the same benefits, but it's not putting excess strain on the wrists and the back of the legs. So it's giving a multitude of benefits that the downward dog pose would do, but using a chair. So this is where adaptive yoga really comes in. So I'm just going to move my camera down a little bit so you should be able to see a better angle. So first thing we want to do is we want to place the heel of the hands. So just under the palms, you've got this big sort of heel section of the hands, and we place those on the chair, shoulder distance apart. Now, from here, we want to walk 2 to 3 foot back. And importantly, bend the knees generously. From here, with the heel of the hands on the chair, we're going to start to slowly send the chest down towards the floor, not the head. If I drop the head down, then we come out of alignment and we get rounding in the spine. We want extension here. So with dropping the chest down towards the floor, head is in between the upper arms, and we're just looking down. Slight tuck in with the chin. So once you're in this pose, we're going to do 3 to 5 breaths in and out through the nose. And on that exhalation, see if you can just allow the chest to drop down a little bit further. If you're higher up here, this is perfectly fine. So for some, you may be a little bit higher up, but others you might be lower down. It's just something we work on over time. If this is causing any tension in the shoulders, you can experiment with having the palms up to the ceiling. This might take away some intensity and ensuring the knees are generously bent. So once you've done 3 to 5 breaths, take your time coming out. And when you do so, pressing into the chair and slowly walking back up. This pose is really good for the lower back, the shoulders, the chest, the back of the legs. So you're getting a lot out of this pose. And as I mentioned, it's a really good pose if you're sitting at a desk, you want to take a quick break, you're watching the kettle's boiling, do this pose. You can use a table as well. So I'll hand back over to Jeff now.
Hello again. Now we're going to do a standing forward bend. Don't worry, this is the easy peasy version. In yoga, we have a global language derived from an ancient Indian language called Sanskrit. And in Sanskrit, this is called Uttanasana. So the standing forward bend we're going to do is just to the chair. We're not going to try and touch our toes. That's not yoga. Yoga is doing what you can to improve from where you are. So come to Tadasana, as we were before. Stand tall. Let the top of the crown of the head rise to the ceiling. On the in-breath, raise your hands and just bring them down to the chair in front of you. And adjust. And then let the head drop down to the point of comfort, not to the point of strain. We want to stretch, not strain. So breathing in, what we're doing here, we're stretching the backs of the legs and we're opening the gaps in the vertebrae in the spine. But we're doing it very gently and very safely. So in this position, breathe in through the nose, out through the nose. Breathe 3 to 5 times. You can then relax the neck and the jaw and the shoulders and let the head drop down. And if you can, look back between your ankles. This shouldn't be a strain. This should be comfortable. We want quality of movement. It's not a competition. You can soften the legs or you can straighten the legs. You can bend the knees if you wish. To come out of that pose, we always come out of a pose, a yoga pose, very slowly. So just lift the head, come forward slowly, walk the feet towards the chair, lift the head, and rise up into the mountain pose and relax. That's standing forward bend, Uttanasana. Over to Jamie. For the next one, the chair twist.
Thanks, Jeff. So we've done an array of movements for the spine, into the legs, the shoulders. The next one's going to be a twist. So in a common yoga practice, there's always a twist involved. But what some of these traditional poses do sometimes is kind of put us in the position where we put excess strain, and sometimes we can kind of pull or force ourselves into a twist. And what we're going to be doing here is really focusing on twisting safely, and that way getting the most out of it. So there's some important cues for doing a chair twist. And the most important thing is ensuring that you are sitting with a posture that's going to help to protect the spine. So I'll come to show you how to ensure that you are sitting in a way that's going to be optimal for a twist. So quite often people will try to do a twist with a rounded spine. And if you're doing that, it's putting a lot of strain. So what we want to ensure is that we have the pelvis tilting forward, and ideally the hips are higher than the knees. Now you can use some pillows or some cushions to facilitate that. And then when the hips are higher than the knees, it allows the pelvis to tilt forward, and then you have more ability to sit with a long spine. So we want to turn, so facing forward to begin with, we're going to turn clockwise, 90 degrees. So the right hip is in line with the backrest of the chair. Feet hip distance apart, firmly pressing the feet into the floor. Keep pressing your feet throughout the pose, and this ensures that you're keeping stability through the upper part of the body as well. From here, take your left hand to the outside of the right chair and your right hand to the outside of the left. Before you twist, how much can you grow in the spine? Can you draw the crown of the head up to the ceiling? And then take a long, deep breath in. And on the exhale, start to allow the torso to rotate, chest, and begin to twist. Now, this is really coming from the engagement of our abdominal muscles, up our spine. We're not using and forcing our hands to twist here. So if we were to release the grip on the chair, we would still be able to have some rotation in the torso, which has got the hands there to give us support. So once you're in it, 3 to 5 breaths, and use those exhalations to slow it down and allow yourself to twist a little bit more. If you feel it's comfortable, you may want to rotate the neck over the right shoulder, or keep it wherever feels best. And when you're ready, coming back to center and doing exactly the same on the other side. So I'll give slightly shorter cues here. So starting with that nice tall spine, turning anti-clockwise this time. So the left hip is facing the backrest of the chair. How tall can you grow in the spine? So notice if you're rounding here. Notice if you're slouching in your position. Can you lift from the base of the spine, top of the head reaching up to the ceiling, left hand to the outside of the right side of the backrest, and your right hand to the left side of the backrest. Press the feet into the floor and keep pressing the feet into the floor, and then on an exhalation, start to twist. The twist isn't coming from the arms using the strength of the arms, it's coming from all of the spine, all of the torso, the abdominal muscles, giving us that ability to rotate and twist. 3 to 5 breaths here. And remember, by slowing down those exhalations, we're helping to send signals to the body that the muscles can relax and we can open up more, and more importantly, open up safely. Once you've done 3 to 5 breaths, come back to center and take a moment. It's always important just to feel the effects of what you've done. Take a couple of rounds of breath, and I'll pass you over to Jeff now.
So our next pose is a seated pose. So come to your chair and come to the front edge of your chair. Now, if your feet reach comfortably to the floor, all well and good. We want a right angle from the thigh down the shin. But if your feet don't quite touch to the floor, you can put a book or a block like so. This chair is my yoga chair. I love it. It's just right for me. But you may want to make an adjustment for your feet. So what we're going to do is a very, very simple beginnings of a back bend. So sitting in the chair, breathe in, place the palms of the hands on your thighs and let the crown of the head again rise to the ceiling. Let the shoulder blades drop down the back, the outer body falls away, the inner body rises. And we then take the hands to the point of comfort under the seat of the chair. Now that may be just by your hips, it may be quite a way behind you, whatever, only to the point of comfort. As you breathe in, you lift the chest. And then you're starting to bend the back, and the breastbone here goes forwards and up. Keep the chin in a level position. It's just the chest that goes up. We don't want any strain on the back of the neck. So breathe in, and as we breathe out, the chest goes forward. Holding on to the chair to the point of comfort takes us into a stretch. That's all we want. The quality of movement, it's not a competition. We're just trying to raise that chest so we get a bit of a back bend. Breathing softly and gently in and out 3 times. to come out of the pose on the out breath. Place the hands back on the palm. There we are. Simple back bend. If we repeat these simple yoga poses, we'll find after a month there are benefits. You'll feel that you've moved more, you're looser. Over to Jamie for the next pose.
Thank you. So next pose we're going to do is going to be stretching the side of the body, getting into the oblique muscles, also the muscles between the ribs and the whole side of the body, which can often be quite difficult to target effectively. And when in a traditional yoga practice, or you could call a standard yoga practice, some of the poses that are taught for that can actually be quite intense. And this is a way to do it with safe and effective means. So we're going to be seated. And once again, we want to observe how we're sitting. And it's using that awareness to then move in the most safe and optimal way. So we want to begin with the feet hip distance apart. And as we did in the twist, the feet pressing on the floor will really make a difference to how and where we feel this. The next thing we're going to do is take the hands underneath the chair, as we did previously. But instead of walking the hands back, we keep the hands just hip distance or beside the hips. Now, if this feels too much for any reason, you can always have the hands on the lap, or you can also hold underneath the thighs. From here, we're going to take our right hand and start to lift the right arm up overhead to the point where you start to feel a stretch in the side of the body. Now, this might be plenty. You don't have to fully straighten the arm. You can keep it bent. But if you want to get a little bit more, you can start to reach the right arm up and overhead. But make sure when you do such, you're not dropping forward. So imagining the torso is between two panes of glass. So with the opposite hand underneath the chair, underneath the thigh, or on the thigh, helping to keep the stability. Now, as you're doing this, making sure that you're not holding your breath, but you're breathing into this, can you press the left foot and the right foot into the floor, especially the right foot? See what happens when you press the right foot into the floor. Does that facilitate more of a stretch? Remember, the arm doesn't have to be reaching fully all the way up. It can stay closer in. As long as we're feeling the stretch, we're getting the benefits, and that's what we're here for. Feeling between the ribs, the muscles are really opening up there, the intercostal muscles. And we breathe deeply in order to get more out of the stretch. So breathing is also stretching. And when you're ready, 3 to 5 reps, come back. We'll do the same on the other side. So I apologize because I've seen you're probably looking at a mirror. So I should have done it the other way around, but you get the idea. So for the other hand, we're going to take the right hand underneath the chair, or we can take it on the right thigh or underneath the right thigh. And from here, just keeping the left hand close, start to extend it to the point where you feel the stretch. That point you feel the stretch is where you stop and breathe, because that's where the benefits are. It's not about how far we go. It's about coming to where we need to go and just allowing ourselves to be in the pose. And over time, we might go deeper without the force. Pressing the left foot into the floor. Does that facilitate more of a stretch? And over time, maybe reaching further over or staying exactly where you are. Notice if you've dropped forward, can you keep the image of being between two panes of glass? Feeling the side of the ribs really open and breathing into those areas, breathing into the ribs to facilitate more of a release here. Notice if the shoulders have shrugged up to the ears, just allow them to soften down. And when you're ready, after the last round of breathing, come back and take a rest and just feel the effects of that. I'll hand over to Jeff now.
Hello again. At the end of a yoga session, we always have a period of a few minutes of deep relaxation. We've done more work than we think. So come to your chair and have the chair to the wall, and take your cushion and put it behind your neck. If you don't need a cushion, fine. Get yourself comfortable. You can have a stool in front of you, like so, but try to keep the knees about hip width apart, not splayed out, because that will cramp up the lower spine. This is called Savasana. Some people find it difficult to lie on the floor. That's why we're doing this on a chair. Sit comfortable and tall. Relax the arms to the side with the palms facing forwards. That's turning the shoulders out so that the thumbs turn out. You may close your eyes if you wish. Breathe deeply in through the nose and out through the nose. And now change that to breathing softly and gently. Relax the jaw, letting the mouth drop slightly open and the tongue drops back. Relax the forehead and the temples, and the eyes look down. Now relax your hands. Let the fingers curl up a little. Now, in this comfortable position, we'll have a couple of minutes of silence as you relax deeply. To come out of this pose, just twiddle your toes and your fingers, open your eyes, and come back to the body. There we are. Savasana, the deep relaxation we always try to do at the end of a yoga class. Move slowly now. And at the end of a session, we always like to say thank you to each other for engaging in this. And we use the word namaste. One of the meanings is that the best in me greets the best in you. Namaste.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Jamie and Jeff. We had some nice comments as well, guys. So thank you so much. We really loved the way that you cued those movements and exercises. So here we go. We've got a little comment from Dorothy, who lives with rheumatoid arthritis. Do you have other folks kind of interested in yoga for AS, even though they don't have AS, but they are like Dorothy, they have
If
Yeah.
I could come in there, there's a woman in America called Stephanie Munaz who has been helping us, and she heads up an organization called Yoga for Arthritis. If you Google that, they specialize in yoga for people with rheumatoid arthritis and osteoarthritis. Stephanie's very keen to see yoga for this other autoimmune disease, axial spondyloarthritis, to develop as well. But a lot of this is good for people with rheumatoid as well. Jamie.
Lovely, thank you.
Just to add to that point, you're always welcome to get involved with any of our classes, but we always think, you know, sometimes it's really important to acknowledge other organizations, and Stephanie Munaz is brilliant, and she does specifically for rheumatoid arthritis, so we'd recommend checking her organization out.
There we go. We've got a lovely comment here from Jana. My spine thanks you. Namaste. So nicely done, guys.
Yeah, I think what I like about adapting physical activity like this is that when it's good for everybody, it's good for anybody, if that makes sense, so that we can all really feel the benefits, whether we have a long-term condition or not, when we adapt them, so that more people can enjoy it. Yeah, we can really enjoy. So I nipped off to the kitchen there, and I was able to join in a few of those movements. Like I say, just sat at my kitchen table, I was watching the comments. So yeah, it's always an opportunity to slow down, pay attention, you know, become aware of our breath. There's we can always sneak those moments into our day, can't we, whether we're, you know, having a cup of tea or just taking a break from our work. But how do you organize your practice? What do you like to do?
Go on, Jamie.
Do you want to go off first, Jeff?
So repeat for me, how do I organize?
Yeah, how do you like to organize your practice? Do you like to do you practice? I take it you practice most days. How long would you practice for? Do you break it up into little chunks? What works best for your condition?
The fundamental point is to be safe, to be regular, and for it to be enjoyable. Mm-hmm. So here I've got my yoga room, and it's always nice and warm. It's light. I've got a window outside. I have all my yoga gear in here. And my wife and I practice together. It's good to practice with someone. You know, we talk about the triangle of care. So you've got the health and social care professionals. You've got us with the AS, and then we've got our family and friends, our family carers. And, you know, Kathy chases me. Have you remembered this? You know, you're a bit grumpy, Jeff. Think you should go off and do some yoga. And a lot of people will say, you know, the hardest thing is motivating myself. So I would say, gather your friends and family around you. If you have a reason for practicing Tai Chi or yoga, then help them to understand it and rope them in, get them in on it, and you know, have some enjoyable stretching together. That's a key thing for me. I'm not very good at sort of just taking myself off. I do that maybe once or twice a week only. I like to go to a class. A class is good fun. Obviously with the pandemic, we've only been able to do Zoom classes, but they're becoming really popular. And just the other week, we had somebody from Iceland, somebody from the States, somebody from Canada, somebody from Ireland, and somebody from England. So, you know, it's just fantastic, isn't it? And astounding. And we never thought this would happen. So we're just trying to ride the wave, really.
What about you, Jamie? How do you organize your practice?
So my routine practice in the morning actually doesn't involve any physical yoga, meaning asana yoga. I always do about 15 minutes of breathing exercises, different forms of pranayama. And the reason I do that is because it means no matter what day I've got ahead of me, if it's a really busy day, I know that I can give myself 15 minutes out of my morning. So it's the first thing I do. And I do a lot of different techniques, but the most consistent one I do involves a sequence, and I usually do it to music. So I make it enjoyable, and using it with music and making that a regular practice is really helpful. And there's research in breathing exercises and reducing inflammation, especially some new or very old, but more pronounced breathing exercises. People may have heard of the Wim Hof method. It's going all over the place at the moment, but essentially a few of the techniques derived from that have an interaction with one of the inflammatory proteins that AS is associated with. So doing that, just breathing and doing these quite simple but very effective exercises helps to reduce inflammation just by breathing. So that's what I do in the morning. And in the evening, I usually like to stack habits on top of each other. So I do what I enjoy, meaning I'm a skateboarder. So I might go skateboarding, and then I say, right, at the end of the habit, at the end of the thing that I absolutely love, I'm going to do my yoga practice, or I'll do some strength training. It's also important for me personally, to keep up with resistance training as well. I find it very enjoyable and beneficial, but I always ensure that the start and end of my exercise or practice involves yoga. And then about once a week, I'll do a full practice. And the most important thing for me is consistency. Whenever I work with someone individually on a one-to-one basis, I always ask them the question, what could you do on an amazing day where you've got loads of energy, where the world is just, everything's easy? Well, they'll say 30 minutes. Okay, so that's what you do. But let's say 25, let's just make it realistic. And then on a day where you're really tired and you're not feeling it at all, what can you do? 20 minutes. Okay, let's call it 10, because that's what I do for myself. I give myself a baseline, and that means I can be consistent. And it's consistency that have the long-term benefits, because as I mentioned earlier, this idea of progression, how you make the most impact in progression is keeping consistently. And that is where you see the most benefits. So that's my personal practice. Quite hard to answer in a short way, but I hope that's useful.
That's amazing.
You
Yeah,
can get that Jamie's a bit more disciplined than me.
Well, and I think it's about
we are all different in the way we approach this, and that's one of the things we've really tried to recognize. For some people, the hardest thing is just getting onto your mat, and then they have fun. For other people, they want to really extend themselves, and like Jamie, he does yoga, he does breathing, he does relaxation, he does strength work. Yeah, you can do a lot of stuff that is actually yoga. People think yoga is just the poses. It's not. It's the breathing, it's the relaxation, and there's a whole philosophy. One of the key parts of the philosophy for me is a word called ahimsa, and it means the absence of injury. So don't injure yourself doing this, and try to, not hurt other people. You may have a long-term condition, but don't let that rub off on the negative side of that, rub off on other people. So ahimsa, the absence of injury.
Amazing top tips there. Thank you so much.
A lovely point to finish on. We could probably spend the rest of the day chatting and practicing, and hey, we could have you back. If people would love to have Jamie and Jeff back, then do let us know. We are going to bring this broadcast to a close. I'm going to maybe see if Jeff and Jamie can hang around in the green room, and once we brought the broadcast to a close, we can maybe have a chat afterwards, if you've got the time, guys. I appreciate you've given a lot of time, and we really appreciate the session that you've led today. You've done a fab job. We've had great comments. So I'd like to thank both Jeff and Jamie for joining us today on our little live stream. Thank you guys very much.
Thanks for having us. I've enjoyed reading all the comments. It's just lovely to hear everyone's responses. And thank you so much, Phil and Helen, and Discover Tai Chi.
Fabulous. So we're going to bring this broadcast to an end, guys. Thank you so much. Find us next Tuesday, same place, same time, and we'll see you again. Thank you so much, guys. Bye-bye.